Hello there. I'm Kios Ronin Beatmaker, and welcome to Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And on this episode, we're going to discuss: did Masalik Al Absar Abubakari voyage to the Four Corners region? With everything, all things, everything. With this light introduction, if it scratches that itch, I implore you to go out there and do your own research, as you may be surprised at what you discover about the world and yourself. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This article was updated July 3rd, 2016, written by Clyde Winters. Did West Africans live in Four Corners region of the United States from 12th century? Williams Jamesville in Seafarers from the Levant. Do Ancient Inscriptions Rewrite History of the Americans? Part 2, published in Ancient Origins, provides a detailed discussion of the man-made inscriptions found in South America left by Abubakari and his followers along the coast. It also appears that some of the Melanians who explored the Americas with King Abubakari of Mali also settled in the Four Corners area of the American Southwest, where they left numerous inscriptions and may have built some of the quiff, some of the cliff dwellings found in the area. Around 1310 AD, thousands of West Africans arrived in the Americas from ancient Mali. Ibn Fadwala al-Umari, in his encyclopedia Masalik Al Absar, said that mariners from Mali during the region of Abubakari made transatlantic voyages. Al-Umari obtained his information from Mansa Musa, who was handed the kingship of Mali by Abubakari when he set out to colonize the Americas. Now, I did cover this kingship, so feel free to check that out on Lounge Ronin playlist. Mansa Musa said that Mansa Abubakari would not believe that it was impossible to discover the limits of the neighboring sea, the Atlantic. Musa told al-Umari, so he sent 200 ships, equipped and filled with men, and the same number filled with gold, water, and enough food to last them for years. Muhammad Ubari commanded that the captain not return until the supplies were exhausted. After some time, according to Mansa Musa, a single ship returned and the captain was ordered to report his findings. Prince, he replied, we sailed for a long time to the moment when we encountered in mid-ocean something like a river with a violent current. My ship was last. The others sailed on. They disappeared and did not come back. But the Emperor Abubakari did not believe him, continued Musa. He equipped 2,000 vessels, 1,000 for himself, and 1,000 for water and supplies. He conferred power on me, Mansa Musa, and left with his companions on the ocean. Here we have a map of Mansa Musa depicted holding a gold nugget from the 1375 Catalan Atlas. The extraordinary force of Mansa Abubakari must have been immense because the average boat in Niger in the 1500s AD could carry 80 men. This means that anywhere between 25,000 to 80,000 men may have sailed from Mali along with Mansa Abubakari. The mention of a violent current in mid-ocean by Abubakari's captain may refer to the Atlantic Ocean's currents, which can carry a boat from Africa to the Americas. We can hypothesize that Abukari had his expeditionary force possibly left the city of Niani by canoe and traveled down the Niger to the Gulf of Guinea. From here, the expeditionary force was probably carried by the Guinea current out into the Atlantic, where it met the South Equatorial Current. The South Equatorial Current carried the Mali explorers to South America. Here we have a map depicting the South Equatorial Current, probably took by Abubakari's expedition across the Atlantic to Brazil. Abubakari's ships would not be the last vessels to be carried to Brazil. For example, in 1500, Alvarez Cabari's ship was captured by the North Equatorial Current and swiftly taken to Brazil. There are many African communities founded by the Spanish in the southern part of the United States and Florida. Arnazi Vanal and other researchers have suggested that sub Saharan Africans were among the first Americans. Spanish explorers found sub Saharan Africans already in Mexico when they arrived. In addition to reports of the first Spanish chronicles, eyewitnessing accounts of SSS populations, sub Saharan African populations in the Caribbean, and Mexico anthropologists have found sub Saharan skeletons of pre Columbian sites. Some of the ancient Maya may have been sub Saharan Africans because ancient Mayan skeletal remains indicate that they suffered from sickle cell anemia. Now, I would push back a little bit, but at the same time, who knows? But, in some of the research I have done, especially when it comes to the Caribbean islands, the Taino Indians in particular, they can trace their lineage back to North America. So I think there may have been a clearly, if you have certain sects of Indians in the Caribbean claiming that their lineage is from North America, and you already have this idea of African colonizers colonizing America, that would also coincide with the many stories of these large, massive cities in North America that are inhabited by copper skinned people. If you're more curious about that information, I highly suggest you check out Dan Calloway. His YouTube channel is fascinating, and his book, The History Told in Reverse. It was told in reverse. There you go. Let's continue. Quaker fairies speak of black men who penetrated to the American Southwest while other Africans migrated into Southern California. And as late as 1775, Father Francisco Gracchus discovered a rare of a black men, clearly African, residing in a community besides the Zuni Indians in New Mexico. According to Cuerda the two races spoke different languages. In 1528, the Spanish explorer Cabeza de Vaca and Esteviquino, the Moor, black man, from Amazor, discovered numerous people living in the American Southwest as they sought to discover the seven cities of Cibola. The seven cities of Cibola were supposed to be centers where fantastic amounts of gold could be found. In what is known as Four Corners region, where the states of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona come together at a common point, the Anazi titled earth and even irrigated their crops and stored some of their harvest for later use. The presence of Manding, language of West Africa in the Four Corners, is supported by the appearance of Dogon and Bambara ideograms called petroglyphs on rocks in the Azazi area. Moreover, there are several tablets found in Four Corners which have been deciphered that were written in an aspect of Maliki Bambara, the language spoken by the king of Mali and his royal court. In the Four Corners region, Devaka found various ethnic groups speaking a multiplicity of languages. Due to the pluralistic nature of these societies, the people could only communicate using sign language. Karam noted that, in reality, the inhabitants of the pueblos, as we now know, were members of extraordinary varied tribes. They spoke widely different languages and had different historical backgrounds. End quote. Devaka's aide that one of these ethnic groups was named Mandika. The name is almost identical to the word Mandika, the name of one of the Mandi-speaking people that ruled the vast Mali Empire of West Africa. And here are some of the drawings. The Mandi people left many inscriptions and the inhabitant signs in the Four Corners area, seen in the picture above. Sorry, I just needed to wet my whistle. In the Anazi area, we find many depictions of the Malaki Bambara habitation sign and Kangaba sign in the American Southwest. This sign is frequently found in West Africa, in areas settled by the Mandi-speaking people. The Kangaba sign is clearly depicted among the glyphs found in the Guji's range of southern Arizona. And here are those Southwest petroglyphs. You know, they want to say that see, I'm gonna hold off on my thoughts for a moment. The ruins of the Anazi stone cities are crouched low on the mesa tops or nestled in caves along the sheer canyon walls of this high desert region. These stone cities are the exact replica of stone cliff dwellings found in West African areas that formerly formed part of the Mali Empire, especially the Dogon towns. And here we have photos of those said cities. And these are Dogon cliff dwellings in Africa. The above picture is a Dogon cliff dwelling in Africa. And the below picture is a Anasazi cliff dwellings in Colorado. Due to the spread of nomadic Amerindians from the northwest, the Anasazi were forced from their stone cities and cliff dwellings by the invaders. There were probably some intermarriages between Africans and the Amerindians, and today we see a Negroid strand among the southwestern Amerindian populations. In addition, many African communities were found in the southwest when Europeans arrived in this part of the United States. I'm going to read that last line. In addition, many African communities were found in the Southwest when Europeans arrived in the part of the United States. Now remember, they keep on telling you, oh, well, we brought African slaves here, we brought African slaves here. But it's already been confirmed as of right here that African communities were already found in the Southwest when Europeans arrived. So I implore you, for many of you out there who are very held firm on your belief on the slave trade of North America and the United States, I suggest you do a little research onto the true origins of slavery in the United States and the true origins of the Aborigine Americans. Let's continue. A major Melanian inscription in the Four Corners regions is found on Palakti. The Palakti ruins are found in Sedona, Arizona, where we see cliff dwellings and inscriptions. Palakti is one of the largest cliff dwellings situated in the Sedona area. The Palakti site has been dated between 1100 to 1300 AD. This would place habitation on the site around the time the Madika expedition led by Abukari had arrived in the New World. Jack Andrews believes that the inscriptions are written in Sanskrit. The inscription from the Palakti inscriptions are not written in Sanskrit. They were written in the Malkani Bambara language of the Melanians. The Melanians, yeah. The inscription was found near the ruins of the Pakalakti cliff dwellings. And here we have those images of the Pakalakti cliff dwellings above. And here we have the Malian cliff dwellings from Telem. And the Pakalakti dwellings are similar to the Telem cliff house dwellings in Africa. I mean, they're almost identical. The Pakalakti inscription is also written in Manding, not Sanskrit. Below, we see the following signs. The Malaki inscriptions are read from right to left, top to bottom. There are 5 Malakin or Mandan signs on the Pakalakti inscriptions. The inscription says, B Su I C C Kyo Jo. End quote. The English translation is as follows: exists here a superior place of habitation. Make this place a success, consecrated by the divinity. End quote. In summary, Devaka tells us that there were Mongoloid and Negro tribes in the 4 corners. One of these tribes was named Mandika. Mandika is the same as Mandikanaka, the name of the people who ruled and founded the Mali Empire. The presence of Mandika tribe in the 4 corners, along with the archaeological and historical evidence from Africa and the Americas, coupled with the decipherment of ancient Mandi scripts and habitation marker signs used in the New World, illustrates that people from Mali, probably led by Mansa Abukari, colonized many parts of the Americas during the first quarter of the 14th century AD, including the 4 Corners region. The presence of Melanians in 4 Corners is supported by the appearance of Dogon and Bambara ideograms called petroglyphs and habitation signs on rocks in the Anasazi area and Angloist cliff dwellings. In conclusion, in 1380, thousands of Melanians arrived in the Americas. Many of these Melanians settled throughout South America and the American Southwest, where they left numerous inscriptions written in the Malaki and Bambara language that was spoken by the Melanian court. The Palkati inscriptions is written in the Mandi language, not Sanskrit. These inscriptions, like those records by William James Veal in Seafarers from the Levant, Do Ancient Inscriptions Rewrite History of the Americas, Part 2, describes the petroglyph setting where the Palakti inscriptions and the cave dwellings are found. Due to the spread of nomadic Armenians from the northwest, the Anazi were forced from their stone cities and cliff dwellings by the invaders. The report of Devaka makes it clear that many Melanians or Mandika were still in the 4 Corners regions when the Spanish made their way to the region. There was probably some intermarriage between Africans and Amerindians, which would explain the Negroid strand we see among some of the southwestern Amerindian populations. And there you have a light introduction into Did Masalik Al Absar Abubakari voyage to the 4 Corners region. Now, as you can see, this obviously rewrites history in a plethora of manners. The fact that we can now confirm that there were already, Africans here. I prefer to call them Aborigine Americans, because we don't necessarily know exactly when they were already here. Yes, the history says the 14th century or 12th century, but I would beg to say that it may have been earlier, especially when you consider the Egyptians. And when Solon was speaking with them, they discussed many years prior that they were able to travel to North America and essentially island hop their way to North America. And if we take into fact that one of the oldest Egyptian boats was found in Ireland, and the fact that the Irish can trace their lineage all the way back to Egypt, I would say that we're missing a part of this story. These are things that we all have to take into consideration when we do our deep dives into the hidden history of our world. And North America is a plethora full of hidden history, some of which would break our own foundational belief systems to crumbling ash and smoldering rocks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. If you've made it this far, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.